Thank you.
Let's do this.
Imagine figuring out what you want more than anything else, coming so close to achieving it, but falling just short. Achieving it, reaching your goals and your dream coming true. Catastrophically failing and never being able to do the thing that you love most, ever again. 4 very different moments, but they all have the exact same next thought. Now what? As the only Olympic athlete in the history of the Olympic Games who has both won an Olympic gold medal and nearly died while competing at the Olympics, I have experienced all 4 of those moments. Setting the goal, coming up short, achieving it, catastrophically failing. And each time, no matter where on that range it fell, the very next thought was, now what? You're going to hear the story that led to me having that unique claim to fame. The moments that left me with that question, and how I was able to answer it and move forward each time. You'll leave with 4 answers and 4 strategies you can put to use immediately to increase productivity, resilience, adaptability, and be ready to move forward the next time you are faced with that question, now what? My journey began in 1999, right here in Las Vegas. I was 7 years old and a student at Estes McDaniel Elementary. And my mom found a flyer advertising the local Las Vegas BMX racing track. As any of my teachers could tell you, I was one of those kids who had endless amounts of energy, and my mom was looking for any way possible to help me burn some of it off. And so she decided to take me out to the track. And right away, I loved it. I was hooked. This was it. BMX racing was the sport for me. BMX stands for bicycle motocross. And BMX racing is a sport that was invented in Southern California in the 1960s by kids who would make homemade racetracks out of dirt, grab their bikes, grab their friends, and race around it. A lot has changed since those early days, but a few things haven't. There's a starting line, jumps, turns, a finish line, and the rules are incredibly simple. The first person across the finish line wins. Modern day BMX racing at the Olympic level, like what I did, consists of starting hills that are 3 stories high, speeds of up to 50 miles per hour, jumps that reach 50 feet in length. 8 racers at a time battle their way around the racetrack, but just like in those early days, the first person across the finish line wins. BMX racing is the most dangerous sport in the Summer Olympic Games. Before I knew it, it was 2008. I was a student at Green Valley High School, and BMX was making its Olympic debut in Beijing, China. I stayed up all night to watch that very first BMX race go off at the Olympics. It was around 3 in the morning as I watched Team USA bring home 3 out of the 6 possible medals. I loved it. I thought it was the coolest thing that I had ever seen, and I was so inspired. So I did what any teenager might do. I grabbed a Sharpie, and I wrote on the wall of my parents' house that one day I would become Olympic champion. Once I got off of grounding, for writing on Mom's wall with a Sharpie, I was left with a message, and I was going to have to look at it every single day. One day, I will become Olympic champion. Now what? Without realizing it, 15-year-old me had just set a clear and defined goal and created accountability by writing it down. I didn't know what any of that meant. I was just a 15-year-old kid who was fired up and wanted to go be on TV at the Olympics. And you may be thinking, oh, the Olympic guy gets on stage and tells us to set a clear goal. Duh. That's common sense. And I agree. It is common sense. But is it common practice? We can test it. Raise your hand and hold it up and keep it up if you know that the first step to achieving success is to set a clear and defined goal. Every single hand in this room is up. Now, only keep it up if right now, as we sit here, you have a goal and you have it written down somewhere. You have to look at it every day. Still some hands up, which is great to see, but it's a lot less. And that is the difference between common sense and common practice. It isn't like Olympic athletes and CEOs and these super high achievers. We don't have some top secret guidebook that we pass around to each other that has cheat codes and secrets. We just do the basics. We do the things that we all know that you should do. And we do it consistently over a long period of time. And that is what leads to success. Another common sense piece when you set a goal is to surround yourself with people who support that goal. We've all heard that before. But the thing that goes hand in hand with that isn't talked about nearly as often, is putting yourself in proper situations. Situations that will help you to achieve that goal. Here's a perspective you may not have ever considered before. When you are a professional athlete or an Olympic athlete, you are on the clock 24/7, 365. Every single decision that you make matters. And every single decision that you make can affect you. Think about it. If after practice one day I decide I'm going to go to In-N-Out and get a cheeseburger, fries, and a milkshake, that's going to affect my recovery, my energy levels, and therefore practice the following day. If I decide it's Friday night, I'm going to go out, stay out late, have a few drinks, that's going to affect my sleep cycle, my energy level, my recovery, and practice for potentially days to come. But the thing is, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what it is that you do, and it doesn't matter what your goal is. Every single decision that you make matters. And every single decision can affect whether or not you achieve your goal. And as educators, it goes one step further. Because not only do your decisions affect you, your decisions affect the decisions of your students. So when you set a goal, when you figure out what you want, write that goal down, put it somewhere you have no choice but to look at it every single day, and understand that as you work towards it, every decision you make matters. All right, so I'm 15. I just got off of grounding for writing on the wall with a Sharpie. And in 4 years, I want to go to the Olympics. Now what? Well, it's time to get to work. In 2009, I turned 16. And that meant I was old enough to begin racing at BMX World Cup events, which is the highest level of competition we have and the events that can qualify you to the Olympic Games. I remember as I got ready to compete in my very first World Cup, I was literally shaking. I could barely hold on. I was so nervous. I was getting ready to race my heroes, the guys that I'd watched on TV the year before, and I still had their posters on my bedroom wall. I advanced through the heats, the quarterfinals, the semifinals. Somehow, some way, made it all the way to the finals, and I placed third, setting a record that still stands to this very day for the youngest rider to ever stand on the podium at a BMX World Cup event. And it was in that moment, as I stood on the podium and the race organizers refused to give me the celebratory champagne because I was only 16, that I realized I might actually be able to do this. 2 years later, in 2011, I won my first World Cup. Backed it up with winning another one in 2012, and that meant that I qualified for the London 2012 Olympic Games at just 19 years old. Just a year and a half after graduating from Green Valley High School. And I would be the youngest rider competing in our event. I want to be very clear. A lot more happened in those 4 years between me writing on the wall with a Sharpie and getting ready to race at the Olympics. I wish it really was that easy and I had discovered some sort of magical secret. And if that was the case, I would just pass around a box of Sharpies. I would encourage all of you to go home, or if you want bonus points, go to your parents' house and write on the wall whatever it is that you want most, and poof, in 4 years it'll come true. Obviously, that's not how it works. I didn't go into the boring details, like getting up before school to go to the gym, going to school and then going straight back to practice after school. Not doing things that I wanted, like hanging out with my friends, going to the football game, going to the prom, because I was constantly training, practicing, and just trying to become the best possible BMX racer that I could. Honestly, I should have just pre-programmed into my phone, sorry guys, can't make it. Practice. But that is the level of commitment and the type of decisions that have to be made when you want to achieve a major goal. One thing I did find time for, though, was to give my dean at the time, Mr. West, Roger West, who's here today, my friends and I, we certainly gave him a very hard time, and I apologize for that. But all's well that ends well, right, Mr. West? So we're in London, and I'm on fire. I've won all of my qualifiers, my semifinal. And I find myself sitting in the starting line for the London 2012 Olympic final as the #1 seed in the pole position. The odds makers, the commentators, everybody has me picked to win.
Connor Fields in lane 1.
But I'm going to put my money on Fields in lane 1. Who are you calling?
Riders ready, watch the gate.
And I completely blew it. I choked. And I finished 7th out of the 8 people in the Olympic final. At the Olympics, there are 4 things that you can go home with. You can go home with a gold medal, a silver medal, a bronze medal, or you can go home with a shiny new participation certificate. And I was going home with one of these. Now what? So close to achieving my goal, but failing spectacularly in the final moment. When you watch the Olympics on TV and you see the end of the race, the end of the game, you see the athletes who got a medal jumping up and down, celebrating, hugging their teammates, hugging their coaches. You see the athletes that didn't, walking off, dejected. But what happens next? As you cross the finish line, you realize it's all over. You make your way around the people who are celebrating, and you head back to the Team USA area. You start changing out of your uniform. As you're changing, the coaches, the assistants, some of your teammates come up to you. Some pat you on the back. Some tell you they're proud of you. What do you say? Those who do try to say something to you sound like they're miles away. You're disassociating a little bit. As you're changing, you see in the corner the medal stand uniforms that you had brought to be prepared for if you had medal. And you realize you will never, ever get a chance to put that uniform on. You make your way out of the venue and head over to the bus to head back to the Olympic Village. You go to the cafeteria, you try to eat, but can't really eat. You go to your room, take a shower, and then you brush your teeth. And it was in that moment, as I brushed my teeth, where I lost it. I just started bawling. See, that was the first time that I had to look at myself in the mirror. And when you come up short on a goal, the answer as to why can often be found in the simplest of places, by taking a good, hard look in the mirror. It isn't easy to be vulnerable and to look yourself in the mirror and ask where you could have been better, but it is absolutely necessary if you want to evolve into the best version of yourself. And as I sat there, crying in the mirror in London, I realized I didn't do everything I could do to be prepared. See, when you're a member of the U.S. Olympic team, you have access to some of the best sports psychologists in the country. I was 19, I was going to the Olympics, I was the man. I didn't need no sports psychologist. But in that final moment when all the pressure was on, I realized I did. So I made a plan right there in that bathroom that I was going to call that sports psychologist when I got home. And that 4 years from now, after the next Olympics, I would have no regrets. And I would know that I did everything that I could do to be prepared. So if you come up short on a goal, find yourself thinking, now what? Take a look in the mirror. See if you can identify the weakness and then make a plan to attack that weakness. 4 years later, I found myself back at the Olympics. It sounds very simple when I put it like that. A lot happens in that 4 years. But 4 years later, I find myself back at the Olympics, this time in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And if you've ever wondered what it's like for an Olympic athlete at the Games, it's actually horrible. You have knots in your stomach for a week. You have trouble eating for a week. Sleep? Nope. You're not going to be getting much of that. The night before our competition began at the Rio Olympics, I went down to the cafeteria with my coach. I made this beautiful plate, rice, chicken, vegetables. Absolutely no flavor, exactly what you're supposed to eat the night before an athletic competition. I sat there, cutting it up, stirring it, playing with it, but I wasn't eating. So coach goes, "You gonna eat that?" I said, "Nah, coach, I'm way too nervous, I can't eat." Coach says, "Well, you gotta eat something. You can't just completely skip dinner the night before the Olympics. Just go get something, anything you can get down." So the night before Olympic competition began, at the Rio de Janeiro Olympic Games, I had 2 slices of the greasiest pepperoni pizza you can imagine and a Pop-Tart. Brown sugar, best flavor there is. I rode well throughout the Olympic competition, and I advanced back into the finals. This time as the number 6 seed. I wasn't the favorite, but I was in the finals, and I had a chance. Men's final to staging. Men's final to staging. Echoes in English, Spanish, and Dutch. Languages of the 8 competitors for the 2016 Olympic men's BMX final. 2 Americans, 2 Australians, 2 Dutch, a Colombian, and a Canadian. Shh. Silence. The arena goes quiet. You can hear a pin drop. Riders ready. Watch the gate. The next 34.642 seconds would unfold in a way that even Hollywood couldn't have scripted. I had the best start of my life. But being that I was on the outside of the starting grid, the number 6 seed, I was beat to the first corner by 1 other rider. And as I rounded that first corner, I realized who it was. It was the other American. And I was now faced with the absolute hardest decision you could be faced with in this moment. I'm sitting in second place, silver medal position, with my teammate, my friend, my roommate in the gold medal position. What do? Do you attempt to pass your teammate? Run the risk of crashing him out of the race? Crashing yourself out of the race? What if I crash both of us out of the race and the front page of tomorrow's New York Times reads, "Fields blows US 1-2 sweep"? What if you just sit back and race for silver? I mean, the slogan is go for the gold. And we talk about gold medals, but let's be real here. An Olympic silver medal is still pretty darn good. What would y'all do? Champion mindsets in this room. Yeah. Of course I'm going for it. I don't care if that's my own mom in front of me. Mom, you're going down. I didn't break bones. I didn't go through depression. I didn't make every decision in my life for the last 8 years to get to this moment, just to settle. My parents, my coaches, all the people in my life that helped me get to this point didn't give me their best for me not to go for it. So I went for it. And I was able to advance past my teammate without affecting his race or mine and take over the lead and win the race. Imagine what it feels like to cross the finish line and realize that you just became Olympic champion. Imagine hearing your name called as they raise the flag and call you up onto the podium. Imagine seeing your father, the man who drove you to practice 5 nights a week your whole life, behind you in the stands, bawling his eyes out. And you're trying not to cry yourself because you don't want to become a meme. And imagine what it feels like to pull an Olympic gold medal. Now, here is a little known secret that the Olympics doesn't like us to talk about. So we're just going to keep this between us, okay? Not too many people in here. I don't think the word will get out. It's been over 100 years since Olympic gold medals were actually made of gold. Modern day Olympic gold medals, like this one, are really made of over 90% silver, with a coating of just 6 grams of gold around the outside layer. And I think that is a beautiful representation, because on the outside, they're gold. That's what you see. You see the perfect race, the perfect routine, the perfect game. You see the goal finally achieved. But what you don't see is beneath that. You don't see how long that athlete has been working towards that goal. All the times that they came up short and had to figure out how to get better. All the decisions that were made just to get into that position. You don't see all the people that were part of their team behind them, their parents, their family, their coaches, everybody who helped get them to this moment. You don't see all the times that those athletes wanted to give up. While the final product may look and it may be gold, the process to achieve it isn't pure gold. At our venue in Rio, there was a fence that separated the athletes from the general public. It was the only place that we could interact with our friends and family who had come to watch us compete. About 5 minutes after crossing the finish line, I was told by one of the Team USA coaches that my father was at the fence and he wanted to see me before the medal ceremony. So I walked over to the fence. I'm out of breath, I'm exhausted, I'm cramping, I can barely speak. We can't hug because of this fence, but we put our hands together like this. This is what he says.
I love you so much. I'm so proud of you. You did it. You painted it on the wall and you made it come true.
What are you going to go home and paint on your wall? And the former mayor that was speaking earlier, sorry to your mom, because you're definitely going to go home and put something on the wall. I just won the Olympics. Now what? Well, first I'm going home. And let me tell you, there is no greater city on earth to go home to after winning the Olympics than Las Vegas. Me and the crew had a great time. If you've ever seen the movie The Hangover, it's a bit like that. And I am now the defending Olympic champion. Now what? When you watch the Olympics, you often hear the phrase, defending champion. And I hate that phrase. I don't have to defend anything. Nobody is breaking into my house to steal this gold medal. But I do pay $59.99 a month for ADT, so don't get any ideas. I will be an Olympic gold medalist forever. Just now, if I want to win the Olympics again in Tokyo, and I do, I have to start right back at zero, even with everybody else. Nobody is going to take this gold medal away from me. Everyone wants to take the next one away. So when you succeed, when you reach your goals, enjoy it, celebrate it. That is why you work so hard. But then remember that prior success does not automatically guarantee continued success. Follow that blueprint just as hard, with just as much focus, drive, and intensity as you used to succeed the first time around. The next 5 years included a global pandemic, the first postponement of the Olympics in the history of the Olympics, and countless other things that made all of us think, now what? But eventually, we made it to the Tokyo Olympics in Japan. No friends or family would be allowed into any of the venues. This would be one of the first events that my family couldn't come watch me compete. No spectators would be in any of the crowds. We would be competing in front of empty grandstands. And as athletes, our movement was extremely restricted. We would basically wake up in the morning, take a COVID test, and if we passed, we could go to the cafeteria, the BMX track, and then go sit on our cardboard beds for the rest of the day. This was going to be an Olympics unlike any other, and it certainly wasn't going to be very much fun. But at the end of it all, somebody was going home with a gold medal. So I stayed focused on that. The format would be run over 2 days, with the first day being the quarterfinals, and if you rode well and you advanced, the second day being the semifinals and the finals. I absolutely crushed it on the day of the quarterfinals. I won my quarterfinals almost with ease and entered the second day as the #1 seed. Everything was on pace for me to repeat as Olympic champion. On the morning of Olympic semis and finals, it was raining. I went over to one of the Team USA coaches and I asked if we were on a rain delay or what was going on. He informed me that we were indeed on a rain delay, and he'll come and grab me when it's time to get going. And then I woke up alone in a hospital bed, covered in bandages, scared, confused, with no idea what was going on, and nobody around me who spoke English to tell me.
Breaking news now out of Tokyo tonight, where one of our Las Vegas Olympians is seriously hurt on the BMX track.
Your American Connor Fields, you're in a very good spot, sitting on just 4 points. So if he finishes in the top 4 or better, he's got his spot. Connor Fields with the inside line in the red, white, and blue. Bike number 11. He will get the whole shot. Big action on the outside and a pile up as Connor Fields goes down, connecting up with the Dutch and the French, and that will open things up.
It's just so heartbreaking to see. Connor went down on the BMX track, knocked unconscious in some images that are really hard to see. In those awful moments, crews rushed to the track. We can tell you they took Connor away in an ambulance.
Now all attention really turning to the defending Olympic gold medalist Connor Fields from Henderson, Nevada, going down hard. And Connor Fields being taken off the track right now on a stretcher. But the defending Olympic gold medalist Connor Fields crashing hard in the first turn and unable to get up and walk off under his own power.
I suffered one of the worst accidents in the history of the Olympic Games. Broken ribs, collapsed lung, torn ligaments in my shoulder, torn bicep, and the big one, a traumatic brain injury. I had bleeding on 4 different parts of my brain. Injuries to my frontal lobe, my parietal lobe, my corpus callosum, and my brain stem. As I laid there on the track, unconscious and not breathing, the initial concern was if I would survive. Once I stabilized, doctors were confident that I would indeed survive. The next question was if I would even remember who I was when I woke up. And just a few days earlier, my biggest fear was coming home with another participation certificate. Now what? Now began the 18-month-long process of rehabilitation to get my life back. Now began the process of regaining my balance, relearning how to drive and pass my driver's test, and relearning how to speak properly. Through hard work and an amazing team of people around me, my recovery was miraculous. And I am so grateful that I can stand here today. It shouldn't have to take a near-death experience to put that type of gratitude back into your life. And I hope you can learn from my experience about the importance of keeping things in perspective. Don't get me wrong, it's important to set goals. It's okay to want to be great. It's okay to want to be the best. But when you do come up short and find yourself looking in the mirror, or in the event that things go catastrophically bad, like it did for me, keep things in perspective. You are here. And you have an opportunity to answer the question of now what, and there is nothing more important than that. Any high achiever or high achieving team has had to answer that question of now what more times than they can count. It is those who always dig deep to find an answer no matter what that ultimately reach success. 4 answers and 4 strategies that you can take and immediately put to use this school year. When you set a goal, write that goal down. Put it somewhere you have to look at it every day and understand that as you work towards it, every single decision you make matters. If you come up short, if you don't reach your goal, take a look in the mirror. See if you can identify a weakness and then make a plan to attack that weakness. When you succeed, enjoy it, celebrate it. That is why you work so hard. But then remember that prior success does not automatically mean future success. Follow the blueprint just as hard as you did the first time. And in the event things go catastrophically bad, keep things in perspective. As long as you are here, you have an opportunity to find an answer to that question. As you leave here today and embark on another school year, there's only one question left for you to answer. Now what? Thank you.